Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to tournament poker strategy. And now, here are your hosts, Ron Fezbuddy and Killingbird.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. As always, I'm Killingbird here with co-host Ron Fezbuddy. How you doing, man?
I am good, my friend. Hold on one second. Let me step back and bow to your greatness. Mr. KB is crushing tournaments this month. Crushing.
I'll take the bow because next month I'll probably be complaining about the terrible downswing that I'm on. So while it lasts, I will gladly accept the bow. Thank you.
Good job, my man. Good job. Congratulations. Glad to see you crushing. You've been working hard, so it's good to see.
Thanks, man. Yeah, things have been going well. All the hard work paying off. Had a bunch of deep runs and I think 5 or 6 final tables so far in the new year. 2 10K guaranteeds on AP. And a final table in the 70K on Stars.
Yep.
And then 2 50-50 final tables, a second place and a third place. The second place was just last night for like 3,700. So,
wow.
Yeah, things have been going good. I am going to ride the wave as long as I possibly can. That's my goal.
And I want to say, congrats for being on the right side of variance, but I know that you've been opening up your game, so I know it's not just variance. Obviously, there's a little bit of variance, and I know you would agree with that. But I do know that you've definitely been working on changing your game. I could see it just from watching you play. So nice job, man.
Thanks. Yeah, it's nice. The money and the winning and stuff is obviously really cool, but I think the best part is just, like you said, just to finally see hard work paying off. You feel like you spend so much time trying to get better and trying to improve, and sometimes you just feel like, well, am I even doing things right? Like, Am I getting better, or am I just staying the same or getting worse? I don't know. So when it finally starts to pay off, it's definitely a nice feeling. So thanks for that. And how about you? How things been going for you?
Oh, I'm downswinging. I'm the opposite. I'm the exact opposite. I think literally I'm the exact opposite of you. Last podcast, I think I shipped the 18K. I don't think I've cashed since. No, it's obviously it hasn't been that bad, but it's been pretty bad. It's tricky because downswings, they're kind of a blessing in disguise, because what downswings force me to do is work harder. I'm guilty. I know, you guys probably listen to the podcast, you see me on the forums and stuff, and you think I'm immersed in poker, and I am. But I'm immersed in a lot of working on TPE and then just opening up tables and playing. And I probably do a lot less studying than I should do. And thinking about, I think about the game a lot, but I just don't put in I think in my estimation, enough work on the game. So downswings kind of force you to doubt yourself. And if you're serious, you will eventually lead to working. So I'm taking the week off. I'm just studying. I'm watching videos. I'm doing math work. I'm doing some work on squeeze math, because I don't feel like I can quantify it right now.
Right.
And so I feel like it's an area of opportunity where there's probably not enough people doing it right. So I'm putting together some math and hopefully put it in the TPE EV calc spreadsheet that members get eventually, when I get it to a point where I think everyone feels like it's right. But yeah, so I'm just kind of going on, and I'm going to study a little bit, and I'm going to play less tables too, because I think I just try to load up the tables, and when you're upswinging, it's great, but when you're downswinging, it compounds things. So I want to think more, is basically what it comes down to. I feel like I'm a little too automatic, robotic. Couple hands where I just don't think I thought through enough. I brought one for later, and I just feel like there's opportunity to just become a better thinking player.
Yeah. And, I know you mentioned you're going to watch some videos and work on the math stuff. Is there other stuff that you do, when you're in this study mode?
Yeah. I'm reading the Winning Poker Tournaments 1 hands at a time Volume 2, with
Okay.
it's H. Styles, Risen, and Pearljammer. So I'm reading that book, going over hand histories of my own, and I'm gonna post anything that is interesting or things I didn't do right. And I just recently did a hand history review with Ween that we actually recorded for the site. It's actually just went live today. We're recording this on the 8th, and the first version actually went live yesterday, the first episode. So I'm getting a little bit of, hand history coaching as well.
Nice.
And just, generally talking to, trying to talk poker with people. I mean, that's more of a while I'm playing thing, just kind of, keep poker friends in the loop and stuff, and just keep the conversation going. But for studying purposes, I'm gonna do the things I just mentioned. What about you? What do you do when you're working on your game?
I think I'm kind of like you in that I tend to be able to focus a little bit more on it in the moment. So, like, I spend a lot of time in the TPE chat room at night, especially when I get down to my last 4 or 5 tables, and I'll post stuff in there, or sometimes members will be railing, and I'll just say, "Oh, what'd you guys think of that? Like, was that terrible?" Or so I tend to get more of my feedback that way. Although, I kind of made this resolution to post more on the strategy forums, and I find myself not doing it because the interesting hands I posted in the chat that night. So I think I have to get better about not only posting them there, but then taking that and just bumping it over to the forums so that guys who aren't up at 4 a.m. like us, get a chance to see it and give some feedback. And I'll
know where my forum hands come from when I do hand history reviews of myself, not from live play usually, because during live play it's just so much easier to send it to some people that you're talking to at the moment and get their opinion.
Right.
But when you do a hand history review of your own, you just kind of go through last night's deep run. And then you're like, when you're watching a hand where at the moment you were 8-tabling, and you really didn't think about it, but when you're focused on it, you have questions about it. That's where I find good forum hands to post. So
yeah.
sort of.
The other thing that I really want to do, and I almost did it last night, but I want to fire up the recorder again when I get deep, because I figure it's about time for another Killing Birds Ticket to the Man series.
Ooh.
Let's
see.
Yeah, I feel like my game has gotten a little better, so I won't get abused quite as bad. So I really want to do that, and it's it'll be a good contrast, because that original Ticket to the Man that I did was recorded right around the time we launched the site. It could have even been days before it launched. So obviously a lot has changed since then in my game. Yeah. So I really want to kind of I want to be able to A/B, that tournament versus something new. And the only reason I didn't fire it up last night was because it was the Turbo 50, and I think it could have been over very quickly, or it could have lasted 5 or 10 minutes.
No, it's better when you get a couple stacks and like 2 or 3 things, and then you fire it up. It's the best.
Yeah, and I want to have a couple of tables.
Yeah.
So that there's not a lot of dead action and stuff. So I'm anxious to do that, because I think that'll be really good feedback for me.
Well, we know one thing is true. All that lobby checking has paid off, man. Really,
that's right.
Really, really great job with all that. I mean, I know you've been checking the lobby for a long time, and you've been working on checking the lobby, and I'm glad to see that it's probably paying off.
Yeah, it's nice when you can check the lobby and see that there's only 5 people left instead of 55.
Why are you checking the lobby for that information?
Hey, when you're a habitual lobby checker like me, you just keep checking no matter what happens.
No, my bottom line is that I need to think more when I'm playing. Like, I feel like I have to become a better thinker street by street, and I think I play too many tables, and I'm a little robotic, and the leaks are compounded because of that. I think of players like, when I go read like some of our forum posts and I see how some of the pros or even some of our best members, our most successful members think about hands, or you go to 2+2 and, guys, there's guys there. Like, I just like really love when someone like Smoke Rock Flock posts, because he thinks about hands very intelligently, and like when you see like Noah SD talk about a hand, like they're talking about all the combinations that the person could have up to this point, based on the way they play it, and then you could make your action based on that. And I just feel like I need to think of that more. Like, I actually opened up, like my last session, I opened up a notepad, and like I actually like wrote down the hands I think this guy can have, like on the flop, and then I tried to reduce that on the turn, so that when we got to the river, I had an estimation, and it ended up with him folding to my bet. So I think I was right about his range, but I don't know exactly what he had. But like, just think about it. What are the elements of a poker hand, right? It's the bets, it's the positions, and it's the cards. And, you can make assumptions on the cards based on those other things. So if you can figure out the combinations and, what beats you, what doesn't beat you, and what percentage, what percentage of hands beat you, and then you can make your bets or your calls appropriately. So I just need to do a little bit more thinking as opposed to automatic work. And I think that's going to come from just dropping some tables and working on the game after I do the study period. So
yeah. Well,
that's my deal.
Now that the big double guarantee multi-entry week is over, it'll be slightly easier to bring your table count down a little bit. Man, that was a painful week.
There's nothing worse than downswinging during that time too, right?
Jeez.
It's like, God. Yeah, I think those tournaments are bad for poker. I think in general, if you have the best players getting the ability to play as many, or not as many, but many iterations of a tournament, it just makes the expectation happen faster.
Right.
I think this is kind of the general consensus. So in the nightly 100K, well, I guess the nightly 75K, the $162 tournament, if the best players can get 4 shots at that, the average to bad players have absolutely no chance in the long run to do anything there. So I think they're bad for the poker economy. And I think at all stakes that kind of can happen. The better players at each stake can, really get hurt. Now, I love them for they've kept it past a week on the $26, 10 p.m. 28K on FTP.
Right.
And I love it for that because I feel like I have an edge in that tournament. I do really well in it. And it allows me to sort of focus my play in games that I think I have more expectations. So I don't have to fill up with a 75 and a 109 just to get tables, right? I could just play all these 26s and I'm happy. I get to play my session and it's in stuff that I have a positive expectation in.
Right.
So I like that. I think that's pretty cool. So I'm happy that, so if they keep it in small doses like that, I think it could be decent, but in the long run, if they try to expand it to everything, I think it would really hurt the poker economy.
Yeah, I agree. I like, you and I talked about this off the air, so to speak, and we love that 28K because it's perfect for our time, the time that we normally play poker.
Yeah.
So if they just keep that one in there, I'll be perfectly happy.
Yep. That's all I need, just that one. Then you got that, you got the 10 rebuy, you got the 50-50, you got the 70K. I mean, you can start at 9:30 and get an 8-table session in pretty easily. Yeah. And that's a decent, session, so. They
just need to stop doing it for Midnight Madness because I can never resist 4 times regging for that thing at midnight and then having one table left at 4.
No, hey, KB, that's stupid.
I know.
I'm just going to tell you right now, that's stupid. Don't do that.
I don't know what gets into me.
If you're on the East Coast and you're 4Xing the Midnight Madness, you are dumb.
I feel so awake at midnight, and then at 2:30 I'm going, what did I get myself into?
I actually 2-bulleted it, just because I was in a couple of things, and then I busted those other things quickly, and so I had 2 bullets going on in that, and I was just like at 1:15 I was just in those 2, and I wanted to kill myself. And I was like, I'm going to practice 4 betting. Right. So I was gone by 2. So
I'm really bad at punting too. Sometimes I'll tell myself I'm just going to punt this and either get a huge stack or not. But then all of a sudden I just find myself going, I can't call here, or I can't shove here. So maybe I just need to get better at punting my stack.
Yeah, there you go.
So I guess we should probably move on to strategy. What are we going to talk about with our pros today?
Today we are going to talk about. We've been so far talking about the early stages of tournaments, right? A lot of topics around deep stack or tournament poker, early stage tournament poker. We are going to move into the mid stages of a tournament by starting with the early ante period. So, the 125, 250 level, the 150, 300 level, on FTP, the 120, 240 level, those levels that where, and in each of those levels, there's a small ante. So in the 125, 250, I think it's a 25 ante. So in each of these, in all these tournaments, there's, that's the first time antes are introduced. And it's the place where a lot of pros start to shift gears. And I know I've seen our pros talk about this in videos, and I think it's just, logical and makes sense. So we're going to move into that segment of tournament play, and we got a bunch of hands from around that time.
Yep, it's going to be good, and we got Big Dog and TTWIST coming in to chat about that with us. So We will take a quick break, and we'll be right back with those guys on the Tournament Poker Edge podcast.
Hey MTTers, this is Casey Big Dog Pocket Fives Jarzabek from TournamentPokerEdge.com. If you've been looking for a trading site dedicated exclusively to tournament poker, then look no further. Tournament Poker Edge is only $23.95 per month, with no initial sign-up fee, and we post a new training video every weekday. You'll also find poker-related articles, blogs, and very active strategy forums. We even offer you the ability to upload your own video for others to discuss. So head on over to TournamentPokerEdge.com and find out why it's quickly becoming the destination for tournament poker players looking to take their game to the next level. TournamentPokerEdge.com.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. It's time to bring in the pros for the week. Casey Big Dog Pocket Fives Jarzabek, Tim TTWIST Kelly. What's up, guys?
What up?
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hey,
I know it's a little early.
Yes,
Yeah.
It's the noon, which is the 8 a.m. for poker players.
Crack of noon. Pretty happy about this.
Well, we promise to make it as painless as possible.
Even the roosters are sleeping.
Well, speaking of the poker lifestyle and living large, Casey, congratulations on being named to AP as a AP Pro.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Happy to finally get a deal done.
Yeah. One of the big name players that was remaining. So great for you. So what does that mean now that you are an AP Pro? What does that mean for Big Dog?
Actually, it doesn't really change much. I mean, what the one thing it probably will mean is it will force me to get out there and play live a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So that's what my goal was this year anyway, so that really steers me in the right direction that way. But other than that, probably won't change my schedule much or change anything at all.
Right, because you were probably playing most of the high-stakes stuff there already, right? Didn't really
Correct.
change. Yeah, right.
It's probably not gonna change my online schedule much at all. If anything, I may play a little bit more smaller stuff on there because just to be seen. They've asked me to get in some little tournaments here and there that are promotional wise. They have like a 3K guarantee, knock out the pros tourney and stuff like that. But other than that, it's not gonna really change much.
Cool. Yeah, definitely congratulations. It's
Yep.
awesome.
Congrats from TPE Nation.
Yeah. Can I go back to bed now?
Almost.
No, we got you 5 to 8 hands. That was the agreement.
That's where you add that applause.
Yeah. Oh, he will. Watch.
I know
That's
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to encourage him. He loves to add the applause. Good.
I'll break that out.
Twist, how are you? How you been?
I'm doing well.
Cool.
Can't complain. Just dealing with massive amounts of snowfall at this point, and every morning I wake up, the snowplow has added another foot to the end of my driveway. Tired of that. I don't lead the league in laziness because that's obviously a Jarzabek thing, but I'm a close second, and so it hurts my feelings.
I actually did get out there and shovel a couple times this year, but like I can't lean on the heart attack too much. But I'm like, a lot of people die shoveling snow. But, yeah,
I would.
I can't believe the amount of snow we've had this year. It's like absurd. Literally, we are having penguins walk by now.
It was a joke before, but now for real.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of being snowed in, I guess that's a good segue into our main topic, or one of our topics for today. Today we're going to talk about, from a hands and strategy perspective, we're going to talk about early ante period. But before we do that, we want to talk about maybe doing some studying or just, away from the table, what we do to become better poker players. And Derek and I talked about this a little bit in the segment before you guys jumped on. But just curious, from a couple of pros, what are you guys doing? Are you guys studying? Are you guys doing hand history reviews? Or are you, do you have a group of poker friends? What do the pros do when they want to put some work into their game? I guess, Casey, if you can go first.
Well, personally, I have a group of guys, pretty well-known MTT regs that basically on a daily basis they get into a chat room on AIM, and as we go through the day playing, if there's any interesting hands that have been played out, they just copy and paste them into the chat box, and then we all just have at it and discuss it. Or I will talk to TTWIST. He lives pretty close to me, and we discuss hands quite often. So my suggestion is the best thing to study, and the way that I got better is just to talk to your poker friends.
Yeah. Tim, do you have a similar thing, or do you do something?
Oh, yeah.
different?
My thing is, just try not to make yourself like a poker island. There's so many resources out there now to better your game, obviously with training sites and friends and yada yada. I get a lot of my training by association, like Big Dog mentioned. We're friends, so I'm at his house a couple times a week, and so all of the high stakes MTT regs that he chats with, I'm allowed to put my ear in on it, and I don't really weigh too much of my 2 cents because it's pretty much pointless with that group. But on the other side of it, the low stakes side, I have a group of friends that we like to get together a couple times a week as well around my house, and we'll session it up, and anyone has a problem with a hand after it's over, we'll chat it up and go over how they approach the hand, and that's pretty much it. But the thing is, like I said, don't make yourself a poker island, because use your resources.
Yeah, and that's what's great about the training sites. I mean, obviously we're a little biased since we run one, but what I've noticed from our subscribers is that aside from the videos, which you guys make great videos and they love that, they love coming into the chat room. There's usually about 20 players in there, and as hands are done and there's someone who has a question about a hand, they're post it right in the room and click a link and take a look at it, and then there's a good discussion around it. And I think what you said, Tim, about not being a poker island is actually a great way to describe it, because I think a lot of people were before they joined, or I know myself before I joined a group of players that were talking poker regularly. You are an island, and you don't know. All you know is what you read, and what you read, you don't necessarily translate into how you play. So there's no one, giving you a differing point of view in real time, and that group of people is just invaluable. So I agree. That's how I think I became a better player as well.
That is a great analogy, Tim.
Yeah,
it really is.
Well, the thing is like, and I think, and I've said this to Casey before, like 4 or 5 years ago when I first met Casey, I thought I could play poker. Within the first half hour of sitting down with Casey and basically over his shoulder stuff, watching him go, I was like, wow, I had no clue how to play poker. Yeah. And then I'm getting that now with some of my low stakes friends who are starting to get into it, because what has Casey has taught me. We talk poker. They come over to my house. They kind of see what I do, and then they're like, oh my God, there's a lot I need to know and need to work on. And I'm just fortunate that I am able to be with the right people. Just timing and lucky, I guess.
Well, you see it from the more amateur players that join the site. They'll post a hand where they have like ace queen in the small blind and 15 big blinds, and like someone shoves from the button, and they're like, I don't know, he could have kings. To us, it's mind-boggling to think that way. But until you talk to people who have a differing way of thinking, you're just stuck with that way of thinking, and you will never know, because
that's clearly a snapfold in my books.
Well, I mean, not accounting for you being the biggest nit that I know.
Yeah,
it's just
I think to Diego's point, I really think the chat room is probably the most underutilized tool. As many people as are in there, I think that could be utilized more. I think.
Not to mention, there's a pro in there almost on a nightly basis.
Almost.
Yeah, there's always somebody in there.
So you have someone that also has a kind of a reputation as being on a different level in those rooms all the time too, to offer their opinion. That's the best way to learn. I've mentioned that on a lot of my videos. I'm like, you guys should come to the chat room, because it really is a underused tool by a lot of our members.
The advanced members are in there too. Like the people who are really getting better are, using that tool. So you have, I mean, even if a pro is not present at that very moment, you have like 5 or 6 regulars in there that are kind of crushing it right now too. So, it's just a good community. So anyway, okay, so we're taking away from this that you want to get into a community for sure. It's going a good way to study.
Absolutely. And the other thing is with the chat room on TPE, Casey every now and then has the audacity to post his 2 cards while he's in the middle of the hand. So you might be able to catch that too. So I decided to let everyone know I have queen here. That was a good one, Case.
I think Panda was doing that last night, but he kept lying. He was telling the wrong hands. I think he thought he was thinking maybe somebody was feeding information, so he was feeding misinformation.
Well, I actually stopped doing that because that one time I said to the guys, I'm going to shove here. I have ace king, and I shoved. The guy was in the chat room.
Who? Oh yeah, I didn't hear about that.
And he called with kings, and I ended up beating him, and I sent him his buy-in back because I felt so bad.
Oh, I remember that.
Because it was a stone cold bubble. It was like 18 people played, and he got 19th.
Yeah.
I do remember the sending him his buy-in back story, but that's the story there. That's classic.
Yeah, he was in the chat room.
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's gonna bubble because I had a gazillion chips, and I'm like, I have ace king. I'm shoving on him. He's gonna bubble. He rolls over kings, and then I do the big dog thing.
Too funny.
I won the tournament though, for the record.
Standard ending.
All right, so are there any other, do you guys ever bring up your own hand histories and review that, or go over hand histories with other folks, or is that less valuable to you guys?
I try not to make myself like the Hawaiian Islands.
Funny. One thing I did do is I did a hand history review, a couple tournaments, and pulling a ton of hand history off of a couple of the sites. I did manage to go over some of my hand history, and I pulled some back from, it was crazy. Like I was pulling hand history back from like 06 and 07 and just absolutely shaking my head at myself.
Yeah, well, that's entertainment at this point.
Yeah, it is a bit entertaining. So
yeah. There's a video running right now where Ween is reviewing my 10 cube deep run, and it's really neat because for the same reason of why it's good to have poker friends, it's good to get other people that are better than you to review your hand history. And if you could, sit with them, I mean, sometimes it means paying for coaching, but if you have friends who want to share hand history reviews, just going through that, and you may not realize where the leaks are. Sure, I'm going to post the tough hand with 20 big blinds. Should I be shoving it here or not? But, the very first hand of the latest video, I have kings in early position, and we're about 50 bigs deep, and I 3-bet too small out of position. And I just would never have posted the hand. I didn't think about it. It just seemed like a no-brainer. But doing a hand history review is great because then you could, you can see that someone could pick that up for you and give you that insight that you didn't know.
The problem with that for me is I keep sending my hand histories to Phil Ivey. He doesn't get back to me.
I hear he's very busy.
Yeah, send a pair of dice with it, and then maybe you'll get it.
Yeah, if you say I'll meet you at a craps table, you'll find Phil Ivey.
Yeah. Have you guys found that making videos has almost become a form of study for you guys?
I think it's become a form of torture. I used to feel that, making videos made me play a little bit better because I was winning a lot at the beginning when I was making videos, but now I'm not sure if it actually helps me or not because I lose focus, and when I'm playing and I'm getting deep in the tournament, I get in this zone, and I know with 10 people left if I'm gonna win or not. If I feel like I'm in the zone, I'm just I'm like an assassin, but
yeah. I
don't know if I feel that way anymore making videos. At the beginning, I think it was kind of sharpening my senses, and now I think it's just kind of dulling them.
Interesting. That's interesting.
I think for me, it really, if you're looking to play a really structured game and try to avoid making any form of mistake, making a video, you kind of shy away from any of those really difficult plays. It's kind of weird. But
I don't.
That's the other thing on the thing as well. To be a winning poker player and maintain those top threes, you sometimes got to think outside the box, as Casey's saying, and be confident in making the plays. And sometimes when you're making a video and you're putting it out to a low stakes crowd that won't even possibly understand the move, it's kind of challenging for me. Where Casey's making nothing but for the most part, has a major high stakes crowd and following. Sometimes I'm concerned about, getting a bit too fancy with in a low stakes game because I got to realize from my point of view, I'm getting a lot of introductory players, a lot of level 2s and a lot of level 3s, where 3 and 4 and 5 betting is just not even in their whole thought process. So sometimes it's a bit different for me.
Gotcha.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Cool.
Right on. Well, should we wrap this up and jump into some of the hands for today?
Yep, whatever you want, Killingbird. Whatever you want.
I run this town.
Yeah.
All right. So like we said, the topic is the early ante period. So for the past, 5 or 6 podcasts, we focused on the early stages and how to play deeper stacked, which a lot of tournament players are not necessarily super comfortable with. We had a lot of topics to explore. Now we're moving into where antes have been introduced. So I think the first concept that comes up here is changing gears. So could you guys talk about a little, what happens in your mind, or how do you see the tournament or the table once antes are introduced? What changes for you guys? Is there a gear that you do change to, or what? What happens to you guys in your mind?
Well, for me, first of all, as soon as there's antes, I tend to give less respect to an open. Like, if it's 5,100 with no ante and an MTT reg makes it 300, I just assume he has some sort of premium. Where
Right.
if they're opening, once there's antes, no matter how small, I immediately get into the mode that they could be opening light. And obviously, depending on my stack, if I'm still hella deep, then I don't get too crazy ready at the beginning. But if I'm somewhere around 30 or 35 bigs and the antes are introduced, I start opening up my range vastly. That's pretty much the big difference for me.
I mean, when like you said, 5,100, you just don't want to risk the reward of winning a small pot as opposed to the risk of losing a big one at that point isn't worth getting into the action, and that's why people are more tight in ABC when there's no antes. But once you break that threshold, I guess we'll call it, into the antes, that's what everybody's waiting for, and it becomes just a game of dead money at that point. And as the antes increase, the dead money increases, and the more slight plays, the thinner plays, where you're going to have to, like for instance, racing or 60-40s, where from this point on in the tournament to win, you're going to have to tackle 20 to 25 or 30 of these spots. Okay, so the antes are what drives this, and it's basically what drives the tournament from that point.
Yeah, so I think we kind of recognize that you have to up the aggression a little bit, play more hands. One thing I noticed from watching one of your videos, though, Casey, is and I think you briefly mentioned this just now. If you already have a huge stack at that point, I've noticed that early ante period, you're not necessarily looking for every steal spot, because like if you gain 625, is it going to add a lot to your 60K stack or something like that?
Right. If I have 150 big blinds, right?
Yeah.
Like, or 100 big blinds or 80 big blinds, there's no difference if I have 83 big blinds as opposed to 80.
Right.
It's just not making a big enough difference for me to like really get crazy and take my every single spot. If I'm really, really deep, even if there is antes, I won't take every spot. I'll still take, obviously, spots that you have to take, like raising the cutoff with 8-9 of spades or something. I'll still do that, but I won't be like from every position, focusing on who's the nittiest guy and always raising his big blind. Like, I do this sort of stuff when it starts getting deeper and there's more value in stealing, but I won't do that when I'm still really, really deep and there is antes.
Right.
I was going to say, it's interesting that, you mentioned thinking about how antes affect your opponents, because the initial thing I always think of when the antes kick in, it's okay, time to start stealing more pots and, time to start winning more hands because there's so much more money in there.
Oh, Killingbird stealing pots is funny.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
But it is interesting to think of it more in terms of what your opponents are doing. Obviously, like you said, people are going to be opening lighter, which means, gives you the opportunity to take pots away from them.
I just have like this image of Killingbird trying to steal a big blind with his knitting needle.
Poking at the screen.
Let me put this quilt down and try and get this big blind here.
Well, I will say we talked about it in the past previous segment before you guys jumped on. He's crushing lately, and so have you changed anything, Derek? Your own game in terms of, and I'll say what I've noticed, but before I say that, I want to know if you've noticed anything. Has anything changed in your game in your recent success?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I've loosened my game way up and just kind of opened it up more, especially late, mid into late stages where you just have to get a stack. Like I find myself always being like 24 of 35 and stuff when you get into those crucial spots, and I just learned that I would just rather bust 36th. Yeah. Or have a top 10 stack than be in that situation.
That's exactly it, because I've watched you for 4 years now or whatever, and you'd always have like 13 big blinds with 20 left, and 11 big blinds, and then 9 big blinds, and I'd be screaming at you, shove or do something, right? Not that I know what I'm doing, but I know that wasn't right? But I've noticed that it's not happening anymore. Now you're like in the top 5 or top 10. So, and I think what you said, the mid to late stages, this is why I wanted to bring up this early ante period, because I think it's a little bit ignored in terms of people focusing on their game. Just from looking at our own forum, I noticed that most of the hands that are posted are early stages when they're deep stacked and poker's much harder, right? Just, so many different streets and, so many implied odds, regular odds, et cetera, just harder hands to play. And then late on the bubble, on the final table bubble, or even at the bubble, blinds are 800, 1600. I have a 14 big blind decision or something like that, or I'm at the final table. I went through, to look for hands today, I went through about 12 pages of hands on our site, and I could find 2 or 3 from members in this period. But to Derek's point, I think this is where you can start to accumulate and start to build a stack, and too many people probably sit on their hands a little bit, and then they find themselves with 20 big blinds at 500, 100, and now they're in push-fold mode. Would you guys agree with that or not?
I agree to a certain extent. I mean, I just think that it's hard when the antes first come in to open up your game and maintain that aggression for 3 hours till the end of the tournament without getting caught.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah.
Because, I mean, yeah, it's good to up your aggression, but I really think you have to pick spots to do it, because if you're chip leader of a tournament and you're trying to put the pedal down over and over again, you're going to get caught, and suddenly you're going to be in the middle of the pack because you're going to get stacked. Like, it's just the way it is. You're going to run into monsters if you're just trying to play that many pots. So I think that's where changing gears is. I just don't think you can put the pedal down and accumulate a stack and keep going and keep going. I mean, it's possible. I've done it, but... No,
I agree. I agree with you. What I'm talking about is when you find yourself at, let's say 125, 250 with 30 big blinds, and you feel kind of comfortable. And then 10 minutes later, you're at, maybe 20 minutes later, you're at, either 200, 400, and now you have 16 big blinds. Right. I think there's a period right there where people tend to get comfortable because they think I got 35 big blinds, I have time, but that it slips away from them very quickly, and then they find themselves short stacked.
Yeah, I actually wrote an article on that exact thing, where you have to be conscious of when the levels are going up so you can maintain your, the amount of big blinds you need to still play pots without having to just be jamming.
Right.
And I've actually made a point of it in a video that I've made in the past, where I had something like 7-7 with 25 big blinds. And before I made my decision, the sign on the screen flashed up that the blinds are going up, which put me to 18 big blinds. So essentially, at that point, it's no longer I have 25 big blinds. Right. I mean, yeah, it's the last hand of that level, but I'm shoving 25 big blind with 7-7 because after this hand I'll have 18.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think you really need to be cognizant of that as you move along in a tournament.
And those levels
move.
Poker
Island. I mean, if you're on a poker island, you really got to be watching.
It's so funny. Reception's bad out there too, so you might want to get your chips in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see a new TTWIST shirt in our future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think people don't realize how fast blinds move in those middle stages, and that their stack is not going to hold up. and therefore I think there may be a little more time that people could spend on those stages. So that's why we moved into this topic for today. So why don't we talk about some hands?
Sounds good.
Okay, so I can I'll guide you guys to some hands here. I think the first hand is probably a no-brainer, but just for those who may not be familiar with just generally when to start open shoving, what positions to start open shoving, I want you guys to take a look at the hand I just posted, and I'll describe. I think these hands are going to go a lot faster than the previous hands have gone in our podcast because they're deep stacked. There are many streets to talk about and multiple options. Here we have just a couple of options. So in this first hand, actually all the hands I posted from myself are from Full Tilt 28K, which is a $26 rebuy. I'm sorry, $26 multi-entry tournament at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. And so in this particular hand, we are at 122.40 with an ante of 25. So there's 585 in the pot. And now I pick up ace jack suited, which, is a hand of decent value. I only have 3.5K. So at a big blind of 240, I have 15 big blinds. Now, if I was in late position, I would be insta-shoving this without even thinking. But now I'm in earlier position. To me, this still seems like a shove, but I'm assuming you guys would agree, disagree. Ace-jack suited, I'm in under the gun +2. It's folded to me. The guys in the blinds have approximately 25 big blinds for the small blind and 10 big blinds for the big blind. Easy shove or no?
Oh, standard.
Standard, right? Okay, I just wanted to level set for those who may be more amateur players and some of the easier things. So why is this standard? Just let's go explore beyond just,
Well,
I
agree that it's a standard shove, unless you there's nothing's ever exactly standard. Like, let's say you have a table where there's a couple guys that are just playing outrageous. Then you may want to induce action with ace-jack, where if you're shoving, you're giving them no option but fold or call for all your chips. So, I mean, yeah, it's pretty standard because of the amount of big blinds you have. If you have, whatever the case may be, you're going to get some hands to fold that are maybe you're flipping with that they normally would play the pot with if you raise, like, say, king-queen, or they may fold an ace-jack if you just shove. But if you're looking for action because you have a couple maniacs at your table and they're going to 3-bet you with ace-8 or whatever the case may be, you may want to raise call, but it's pretty standard shove.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point, Case. I mean, just by looking at the stack sizes here, yeah, you assume standard shove. But there is always the key factor of table dynamics. So, good point.
So what's your threshold here now? So take the same exact situation and let's just assume the table dynamics are pretty standard as well. No one's a maniac. It's a $26 tournament and now we're in the ante period. So, they're not going crazy yet. Are we shoving weaker aces here? How weak are we shoving? Are we shoving any pair? What are you guys generally looking here with 15 big blinds from early position to start playing?
I'm shoving ace-10 there. I'm probably not shoving ace-9. So I'd say my cutoff is probably ace-10. And I'm probably shoving any pocket pairs, so deuces plus. Obviously I'm not shoving aces. I'm going to try and do some action there. But I'd say ace-jack is pretty close because you're in early position here. So my threshold's probably ace-10.
Okay, cool. And, okay.
And on a similar note, how big is Ron Fezbuddy's stack have to be here for him to just straight open as opposed to shoving? At what point does that just become too big to shove?
Well, I mean, again, there's other dynamics. Like, for example, if he was in seat 3, it wouldn't matter how big his stack was. If he was shoving on the guys with, under the amount of chips he has, he's still effectively shoving, 3,500 chips. Or 2,400, whoever the biggest stack is. But because he has some bigger stacks on his left, I say the threshold with ace-jack there in this spot is probably 18 to 20 bigs.
Okay.
Cool.
I mean, maybe if I have 4,800 in chips, I might raise call single action.
Right.
When I say single action, I mean if I get 3-bet, I'm just putting it in. But if there's a 3-bet and a flat, I might just fold.
Right.
Or something, or a 3-bet and a 4-bet, or whatever the case may be.
All right, cool.
I just think
All right.
too many times with ace jack, if you get 3-bet, you're flipping probably a pretty good percentage of the time. You know, a guy
Right.
has king queen or tens, or I don't think you have to be dominated there.
Well, I think that leads us directly into the next hand, which I think starts to examine some of these specific questions. So, if you guys, if you go to the next hand, in the same tournament, now we're at 200, 400, and now I'm in MP2. I have 9,118 chips, so I have approximately 23 big blinds at this point. So I'm, a little deeper stacked, but not overwhelmingly. I'm in a slightly later position, but once again, not overwhelmingly. And my hand here is ace 8 offsuit, and it's folded to me in MP2. Behind me is a big stack cutoff, a 24 stack button, and then both of the blinds are in the high 20s, their stacks. So now, with ace 8 from MP2 folded to me, here I'm always wondering, should I just be jamming a 20 big blind stack at this point with a weak ace? Should I open and then, fold to a raise, which seems to be like wasting an ace anyway, or just wasting, why even open it or whatever, or just fold and just move on because of the stacks behind me. So I'm just curious what you guys are thinking at this point with ace 8.
For me, I fold this.
Yeah.
Because my whole thinking is this. If I open and get called, now if I whiff the flop, I've got a c-bet, and there's nothing more I hate than effectively opening, c-betting, and folding my way down to under 20 bigs.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about a few minutes back in the podcast, now you open, c-bet, have to fold, and then 3 minutes later the blinds go up, and all of a sudden you're at 14 big blinds. So
Yeah.
you basically just crushed your tournament. Now it's a different situation. Now that's basically just saying by what I'm looking at. Now dynamics come into play, like we talked about. If there's nut bars behind you that you figure you can 4-bet shove on and they'll fold, then make your play. But for me, 22.8 big blinds, ace 8 in mid position. I'm probably not giving my tournament away at this point.
Okay,
Yeah.
I used to think kind of the way Tim does, but I've totally changed my mind on hands like this. I have a play now that I've been kind of tweaking, and this is the perfect hand to do it. I would definitely be opening this hand, and if I whiff the flop, what I've been doing a lot is check shoving. Instead of c-betting and putting myself under 20 big blinds, if the flop if I have ace 8 and the flop comes 9 high, 9-4 deuce or something, I just check, and almost always that guy fires chips, and then I just jam, and then he just folds like a little girl.
Nice.
And
Now,
that play's been working for me a lot.
Yeah. I wonder though, would it work at lower stakes? I could see that working at higher stakes where people are thinking about what you're check shoving, but if somebody has like a pair of 9s or something, they may never be folding. I know that it's not likely that they connect on all the flops. I know, Tim.
Oh, they're not folding if the flop's 9 high. They're not folding a 9 at higher stake either.
All right, maybe like a 7 of 7s or an 8s or 6s or something. A smaller pair other than the top pair out there.
Oh, I think you're way more likely to get folds at the lower levels.
What do you think, Tim?
Well, to be honest, I don't use the check shove that often when I'm on air. I can't really make a accurate comment on that because, I know how I don't know. It's a tough spot. I've seen Casey use the check shove, and I've never seen it not work, basically. And to be honest, I've seen him use it quite a bit, and it's an effective move right now. And as you heard Casey say, he's tweaking it and working it before he releases it to the public.
You know what it is, though? You have to have the balls to follow through.
Absolutely.
If you can't follow through, like I actually remember I was watching a video last night of Casey playing on a Wednesday Night Live Sweat, and he had ace 9 suited, and he decided to open, and he just decided I think it was middle position, and he said that this guy from the big blind called him, and he said, I'm going to cover the flop, and I'm just going to c-bet here, because I don't even want to see what the flop is. I know my plan, and I know this is the most profitable play for me to do. And he did it. He actually, you flopped the flush, but that didn't matter. But you have to have the follow through.
Yeah.
Or otherwise you can't make those plays.
It's amazing to me how at low stakes, how I'll be sitting playing, and it'll be like a perceived notion that a guy has me set up the way I think he's playing at me.
Right.
And then not pull the trigger on the river.
Right.
And I'm just like, if you would, like in my head, or I'll even type it. Like, no, I don't usually type it, but you know what I'm saying? I'll say in my head, man, if that dude only had the kahunas to finish off my perception of what he was trying to do, he would have taken the pot down. But he just completely either froze up or didn't realize he was even making that particular, like setting up that particular play. And, you know, I see it a lot at low stakes.
I think him not knowing is probably more likely. It's like your buddy at the circuit event. What's floating?
Yeah. No. Thanks, KB. Thanks for wrecking my day.
Sorry, I just had to bring it up one more time.
One more time.
Somebody asked you what floating was?
3-way for the ring. The guy with the chip lead. I looked at him. I said, "Is it just in your game to float me no matter what?" He looks at me and says, "Floating? What's floating?"
He was serious?
Oh, he was serious, Sheets. And
did you tell him that's what you do when you step off the island into the ocean?
Yes, I didn't think, sir. I float.
The dude must have floated him 3 times, and I think he got there every time. He just never knew he was floating.
Every time with me. But that's okay. That's okay.
I think he just wanted to get the sick brag in about 3-handed at a circuit event.
I didn't bring it up.
Yeah, KB fed him that one.
That's what I do.
Yeah, so so I think, the points I'm taking from this hand are, if you are going to play it, you have to be able to follow through. It's you don't want to put in, X amount of chips and then leave yourselves with 14 big blinds. Your plan has to be a certain plan and you have to follow through with it. But if you're not ready to do that, or if it's not, if you're maybe not at that level yet, maybe it's just better to fold it and save your chips, as opposed to put in an open and a C-bet and then have to fold.
You could always use the theory that it's better to fold and save your chips, but this is an open for me.
Okay. All right, so I do open it. So I make it 800, and I get a call from the big blind, who has 29 big blinds at the time. So just to review where we are, we're at 200, 400. I am folded to me an MP2 with ace 8 off. I make it 800. I get a call from the big blind. The flop is queen 9 ace with 2 hearts, and I'm holding the ace of hearts. So at this point, he checks to me. There's 2,200 in the pot. What's my play here? I'm assuming I'm betting this. I would normally see bet, almost all the time anyway. So what would you guys be doing here?
I definitely like the C-bet. You flop top pair, so chances are way more times than not that you have the best hand here. It's kind of draw heavy, so I would definitely C-bet.
What size are you guys C-betting to?
I would C-bet somewhere between 11.99 and 12.01.
You did good.
I bet 1,200. I bet exactly what the big dog would bet. And I get a call from this guy. So he calls me out of position. And we go to the turn. There's 4,600 in the pot. I got at this point, what did I put in? About 2,000. So we're playing effectively about 7K with 46K in the pot. And the turn is a 2 of hearts. And he checks to me. And now, once again, I'm sitting here now with the ace of hearts. There's 3 hearts on the board, and I have top pair. I feel like, I don't know, and this could be flawed thinking here, but I feel like he's going to fold a ton here if I bet, and my hand is so strong that I want to get to a river. So I check behind. Should I just be betting to build the pot here and just hope he's coming along, or hope he shoves me or something? What are you guys thinking at this point in the hand?
If I was to pick a card out of the deck that I would want to see, this is probably the one.
Right.
It gives you a nut flush draw. You probably have the best hand. He probably floated just to float. This is the perfect 2-barrel card.
Right.
So I would be bet calling here. I would definitely be betting the turn because I think he folds a lot of hands that he was floating with just to float. And let's say he has 10 jack or something. You probably want to push him off that hand. So he might even fold something like, ace 8 or ace 10 or something like that. So, I would definitely be 2-barreling here every single time.
Yeah, I agree 100%. If that's the 2 of clubs, I'm probably going to check, call the river.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's the 2 of hearts. That's the card you're looking for in that spot. So perfect 2-barrel spot.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I know that was a mistake. That's why I picked the hand. So the river is a 6 of clubs. He checks and I bet. And he calls, and I bet 1,600 into the 4,600 pot. I didn't know if I would get a call from anything bigger since he played it so weak.
He has king queen, right?
Okay, so what do you guys think he has?
He has king queen. I don't think. I know.
Actually, he has ace 8 as well.
Does he really?
Yeah, he has the same exact three.
Yeah, of course we were paused when I said that.
I believe I said during the analysis he may even be folding hands like ace 8 if you two-barrel. So you could have won that pot had you not been a complete retard and not bet the turn.
All right, thank you. Now we're going to move on to Killingbird's hands. No, I agree. That definitely there's a turn bet there. But I think what we primarily want to take away from that hand is the pre-flop action. Is that hand worth playing or not with 20 bigs? And if you can't follow through on your plan, you're better off just folding. I think is what we're taking away from that early on.
And
my 22 bigs, not 20, just for the record. I think that makes a difference.
My moral of the story is, with everybody c-betting nowadays, there's so much more floating going on that you better get your double barreling skills down and know when and when not to stay ahead of the curve.
Or your check shove.
Or check shove.
Yep.
So that's just my opinion on today's poker.
Cool.
And that was a ultimate 2-barrel spot. So.
Okay.
Well played. Good. Well played, Ron Fez.
Very good. Okay, now let's
deposit, sir.
Oh boy.
All right. Next hand. Derek, save me.
I'm here to help.
Yeah. Okay, so then moving on to the next hand, let's move into a situation where we're not the first to act, and we're facing an open in front of us with approximately 25 big blinds here. So in this hand, it's the PokerStars 2K. Blinds are at 200, 400 with a 50 chip ante. And so our hero here this is a hand from the forum. Our hero here is in MP1, and he has 24 big blinds. He has 9.6K approximately. He's holding ace queen from that MP1 position, and under the gun +1 makes it 888. So he makes it, a little over 2x. And it folds to him in MP1. So what are you guys thinking here with ace queen? Now, obviously it's a hand with some great strength pre-flop, but we have an under the gun +1 opener, and we have a lot of players left to act behind us, but we only have 24 big blinds. What should our player here be thinking?
All right, well, at the risk of sounding like a complete idiot, this is obviously a HUD stat, 50 of 36.
Yeah, okay, we didn't mention that, but on the forum link it does that. So the villain, he says, the read is probably important here, so let's go to that. He says the villain is 50 of 36 over a 30 hand sample size and has been actively opening pots. That means that he's playing 50% of the pots and raising 36% of them.
Okay.
He's near the bubble, even though it's only we're at 200, 400, near the bubble.
Yeah, it's 255 runners left, 234 get paid.
Yeah.
Okay, this is this is the no-brainer of no-brainers to me.
Yeah.
This is a 3-bet shove. If I'm in the money, I may 3-bet, and if this guy's this active, I'll let him tool out and put his chips in with something like King Jack and then take the 60-40 to double up. But because it's right near the bubble, I'm just putting in all 24.2 of my big blinds to let him know that I'm committed to the pot, quite obviously, not give him any play whatsoever, and put in my chips. I think he folds at least, if that's how many pots he's opening, at least 85 to 90% of the time he's folding to a 3-bet shove here.
Yeah.
So I just jam it.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think my threshold is like if I have ace king in that spot, I probably 3-bet. Hopefully he tools out. It's close.
I'd probably jam even still because chances are that he's going to have a live card or two, and I'm not sure I want to do that right on the bubble.
Good point.
So I'd probably jam any hand I'm willing to play there. I'd probably jam unless it's aces. Cause then
anything I'm looking at
80 against anybody.
Everything I'm looking at here, to me, I'd put it in.
Yeah. And the reason I picked this hand is because there was discussion on should we be shipping here or should we be raising to like 2K? But I think, Casey, you addressed that. We don't want to, we just want to get it in here and show them that we're not folding.
Yeah, I
Sounds
mean,
like
I said, there's 255 left and 234 get paid. If it's a different situation, say there's 350 left, I'm definitely trying to induce action off somebody that's this ag. Or say we're in the money, there's 220 left, I'm definitely trying to induce action and get paid. But because of where we are and the fact that we're right on the money bubble, essentially, I'm just shipping it in there.
Right.
And let me ask you, Casey. For me, I'm probably shipping queens in there as well.
Queens you can probably. I mean, I might 3-bet queens, 3-bet call.
But jacks, you put it in, so that's your threshold. That's your fence. Jacks, queens.
Yeah, I mean, even queens, I don't have a problem with you just putting it in, but because it is right on the bubble. But definitely jacks I'm putting in. Kings and aces I'm raising and hoping he's tooling out.
Yeah. We actually had one or two responses that they thought maybe we should be folding here.
Yeah, and maybe I should run the Boston Marathon, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I can't imagine this ever being a fold.
I agree. Okay.
I think folding is only slightly worse than flatting.
Yeah, this is a snap jam for me.
I guess a key question here, we can get to all our listeners, is Casey. Where would this be a three? How many big blinds would you need for this to be a 3-bet, not a shove? 30?
Well, he has 37, so I'd probably be willing to get 37 big blinds in with him at this point with this hand if he's opening that much. That's a good question. I would say that even if he has 37 bigs, if I have like 30 bigs, I would 3-bet instead of shoving, but I would 3-bet huge. So he would have to be a complete tool not to realize that I'm getting all my chips in. Like I'd be making it like 4,200 here.
Yeah, like a 3-bet shape to where you show him you're not folding.
Right, like 4,200 or something like that. And if he wants to get it in, great, giddy up.
Right. Yeah. I just thought I'd take over hosting the show there for a second.
I like it.
It's good.
You have a future in broadcasting.
I just think that when these spots are so funny, I always like to address my my fence range, I guess we'll call it, where I'm he said where he's going with the jacks, he's 3-betting the queens. He's based on big blinds, you're going with 24 and change, but you're 3-betting with 40.
Right.
So.
Okay.
Do we know the result of this hand?
We do. Let's see. I think the guy wakes up with a monster. He says that he has ace-king and holds.
I mean, unlucky.
Yeah, it's just unlucky.
I mean, The play is right. Yeah, I mean, based on result, it sucks, but the play is right.
Yep.
And I guess, did we give a shout-out to Southpaw R32 for the post?
No, that's the member that posted a good call.
Southpaw R32.
I'd like to thank Southpaw 32 as well, but I'd rather we didn't use his hand because I like cutting up Ron Fez.
Okay, so the bottom line was he did 3-bet shove this ace queen in this spot?
Yes, I believe he did.
Is that what happened? And the initial raiser woke up with ace king?
Yeah, let me read you his response. He says, my initial response was to just flat and take a flop, but once I considered how active the villain was, I decided I'm well ahead of his range. I have fold equity considering the stack sizes and we're close to the bubble, which should give my shove more credit, given that there are still bigger stacks to the left. So I decided to shove, and he snapped with ace-king.
I mean, his thinking is spot on. You know,
Yeah.
It's one of those hands where you just go, well, that's pretty unfortunate, and you hit the X and close the window, and you move on to the next tournament.
No, you're well said, KB. That's exactly it. And Southpaw, hold your head high, sir.
Good hand, sir. Okay, here's another hand where we get flatted by someone with a shorter stack. We are at 300, 600, and our hero is under the gun here. This is Wild Eyed from the forum. He posts a hand here where he has 8s under the gun, and at 300, 600, he has a pretty big stack. He has 35K for 59 big blinds. and he is first to act here at a full 9-handed table. Just for more information, the blinds are, if it gets to them, we have a 23 big blind stack in the small blind and a 13 big blind stack in the big blind. But he's under the gun, so there's a lot of players left to get to that point. So first off, at 300, 600 with 8s in the under the gun, are we opening here? Is this an open? Is this close? Is this an easy open or a fold? What are you guys generally doing here with a mid pair?
Oh, easy open for me.
Easy open, right. Okay. So agreeing on that, he does open. He makes it 14-15. And then he gets a couple of folds, but then the player in MP2 with 16.8 big blinds, a 10K stack, calls. So he calls 14-15 out of a 10K stack. We don't know much about this player. All he says is that he just watched the opponent lose a hand where he tank folded for a rather large pot. So he gets flatted by this shorter stack and everyone else folds. So we go to a flop, with this guy calling us. There's 4180 in the pot. Our hero's under the gun first to act, and the flop is 9-6-6 with 2 clubs. So how do we proceed here, guys? Being first to act with an under pair against a guy who's short stacked. What's the plan of action here?
Maybe Casey has check shove techniques going on here.
No,
you
I have click shove.
Okay.
I just click all my chips into the middle and hit shove.
Yeah, that was my initial thinking too. I mean, what are you folding to? The guy has 13.5, 14 big blinds after making the call pre-flop.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not folding to him. I'm not going to c-bet and then fold to him. So if my theory is if I'm not going to c-bet fold, I'm either going to just check fold or shove my chips in the middle. And I think the guy's probably just like a horrendous fish, and I'm going to shove and watch him fold like a good percentage of the time here.
Right, and I think, that's the question. Do we, when a guy flats us with that stack size, which we don't obviously want to flat, we want to, the action pre here. We hate going to a flop. I think, with a lot of players, but when a guy flats us with that stack size, and we don't know anything about him, we just kind of have to assume he's not a good player at this point, right?
Right. I mean, either that or assume that he's great at poker and that he has aces and just shut the hand down. But I think I'm never doing that. So I'm just shoving it in here.
Right. And I think I asked that question because I think what we have to be cognizant of is without evidence, we can't assign a guy being awesome and doing that to us. We have to assume if we don't know him and he hasn't shown us any reason that believe that he's playing, a 16 big blind stack like some sort of genius. We have to just assume he's playing it poorly when he does this. And I think players freeze up and don't know what to do, especially out of position here.
Well, this is the thing.
Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I just think this is the thing here. I mean, with online, if you don't recognize the player and you consider yourself to be like an online regular, and you have to take the evidence for what it is. You have to take people's betting patterns, bet sizes, how they play in position, out of position. And this is ultimately what's going to make your decision in these spots based on the player's ability. And I think coming up with the player's ability is simple. It's based on the evidence that he's providing for you. And that's his bet sizing, his flatting here with that stack just shows that he's horrible. I mean, it doesn't – I mean, and without knowing people these are the little things you need to build your to help facilitate your decision making, I guess we'll say.
Yeah, so, makes sense. And so Casey, what I didn't consider shoving because I think a lot of people wouldn't consider shoving because it feels like a big overbet and what do you get called with? But I guess what happens here is because we're out of position, this hand just sucks to play, out of position. So why not just take the play away from him? Is that kind of what you're thinking here? What you're getting at?
I mean, the guy's willing to flat with that stack pre-flop. He's probably willing to flat a c-bet with, say, he has like king queen. I just want to be over the hand. Like I have no idea what he's doing. So yeah, I'm just putting my chips in and being done with it. What I was trying to say earlier is I was playing a live tournament with Jim Calapi, who's Mr. Big Cheese online. He's pretty well known. And we had a really sick table. And there was this one guy doing these unorthodox things, just like that. And on the break, we discussed it's so hard to tell with no information if the guy's an absolute sicko or a complete fish.
Right.
So we decided that at times like that, you should just assume that he's the fish.
Yeah.
It's probably more positive EV, and that's what I'm doing here. That if I raise there and some superstar flats me, okay, well, bells are gonna go off. But this guy, I'm just thinking that he's an absolute toolbar, and I'm just shoving it in and watching him fold.
Right, because anyone who's schooled in the game of poker and is an exceptional player and put all the time in necessary to get good at this game doesn't show up to a tournament once and decide to start playing like that. It's because it's because they're no good. That's the fish at the table, folks. You've just recognized him, and there is one at every table. So there he is.
Yep. Cool. Okay. All right. So our next hand is a Killing Bird hand.
Yes.
And this is a spot where he is in the small.
Awful.
Derek, why don't you walk us through it? This is your hand.
All right, so this is the Full Tilt 28K. I don't know. This might have been the same night you were playing. I'm not sure. But anyway, I am in the big blind, and I have a little under 60 big blinds. Player makes it 1,000 at 250-500, so it's a min raise. There is one caller, and then it folds around to me in the big blind, and so it's 500 more to call. I opt to call with the 5-6 of clubs. The original raiser is under the gun. 4 folds, then a call, and then I opt to call in the big blind. So I guess a good place to start is, should I be calling here, almost 60 big blinds deep to a min raise?
Yes, I do every time.
Yes. Yep. Especially when another guy comes in, you have even more value in trying to hit a monster.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely be calling here.
Cool. All right, so I do indeed call. The flop comes queen 5-8 with 2 diamonds. So I flop obviously bottom pair, no kicker, no draws, etc. So I just go ahead and check and figure I'll just reevaluate. The original raiser bets 1,000 into a pot of 3,700. The other caller folds, and so now it's back to me, looking at a bet of 1,000 into a pot of 3,700. And I can tell you that at this point, what's going through my head is all the times that I've seen Casey call the flop.
Yeah.
And say how his opponent never has anything. So I'm like, I could probably call here too.
Yeah. I'm totally picturing Casey saying, I have no reason to think I'm behind here.
Yeah.
I've seen it over and over again in Casey's videos, and that's what's ringing in my head right now too. Him saying exactly that. I have no reason to think I'm behind here.
I guess one question I can ask at this point is, KB, what do you think when a guy c-bets the exact same amount as his open?
I think a lot of times, a couple of things go through my mind. One is that it's some sort of a draw that he just wants to bet and maybe take down if everybody folds. But if not, he hasn't invested a ton, and my raise, if I'm going to re-raise him, it might not be too big that he can't call. So he could have something like Ace King of Diamonds here or Ace Jack of Diamonds where he wants to see another card, but he kind of feels like he has to bet. So that's kind of what I think. But a lot of times it's just the alternative is that it's just a complete whiff. Like he just completely missed and doesn't know what to do. So he's like, well, I'll just min bet and hope that everybody folds. And that's kind of, what I was thinking may have happened here. So I felt like it was a spot I could call, even though there are going to be very few turn cards that I probably like. But I just kind of felt like I had to call.
Would you guys raise to take him off?
I think.
Go ahead, Case.
I don't raise here. I call.
Yeah.
I want to try and control the pot when I think that my hand has some showdown value, and I think that I'm probably ahead, but not by a wide margin. But so I want to try and control the pot size. So I think call is absolutely perfect here, the right play.
Yep. And the thing is that I notice as well is having first act position on the river for when you float here, and you check the turn, and if he checks the turn as well, you can fire having first act. But I don't want to get too far ahead, but that's.
I mean, obviously, Ron Fez is trying to ask if we should raise, so we cut you up, Killing Bird, because on him you play correctly.
No.
But no, I think call is definitely the way to go on this turn. You flopped a pair. I mean, more times than not, then you're going to be ahead here.
Right.
Yep. I definitely float here for sure.
Okay. Phew. All right. One safe street for me. So I do indeed call. So that brings the pot to 5,700, and the turn is actually the 6 of spades. So that's making it Queen 5, 8, 6. 2 diamonds, 2 spades. So turn gives me 2 pairs. So, as I said, there's not too many turns I'm going to like, but this is actually one that I kind of do like. And I feel like this if there's a spot that I messed up, it's probably here. But I think leading is I'm just going to make him fold a ton if I lead, because it seems to look sort of strong, and maybe now I'm afraid of draws and stuff. But I opt to check. Do you guys feel checking is bad?
Well, I definitely never lead there, but I think I don't lead with the intentions of probably check raising, maybe with how draw heavy the board is.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Case?
Yeah, this street is played bad. I would rather you
Yeah.
lead than check calling.
That's it?
At least
Play
leading.
bad? You don't scream at him? That's it? You started off
done yet.
It took you a paragraph to get to the street is bad.
It amazes me how often you guys play hands and just screw them up. But no, I think check raising here is the perfect line. Leading gives him a chance just to call if he has something like king queen. But if he has something like king queen, you're going to want to check raise here because you're dying to get all the chips in with this hand.
Yep.
And if he has king queen. So I would definitely be check raising here. But I wouldn't just check call because there's so many cards on the river that can hurt you. You can get counterfeited. There's so many draws that can complete here. It's unbelievable. So I think this turn has to be check raised every single time. What hand does he have right now that you're losing to? Queens? No. He doesn't have queens. I'm doubting very much he has big dogs. Like, give me a break. He doesn't have eights. So this has to be a check raise. You weren't sure where you were on the flop. That's why you floated. Because, I mean, you're probably ahead, but you can't be sure. You're like 98% sure that you're good on the turn. And this guy may actually have a hand because he two-barreled. You have to raise here. I think it's horrendous not to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that when I was kind of getting ahead of myself reading, I just spotted that as a spot. Like when you're going to turn 2 pair like that in such a filthy draw heavy board, you definitely never leading, never check calling. My line is definitely a check raise.
Okay. Yeah, it seems pretty obvious to me looking at it now, and I don't know why I did that, to be honest, but I hated it when the river comes the 8 of spades, because then obviously any queen now beats me, and any bigger pair than mine beats me. So I just kind of have to vomit at the river. Yeah, spade draw got there. Some straight draws got there.
Basically, any 6 beat you. Like, I mean, he could have some 6s in his range that beat you now with a6.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's obviously any 8 beats you. So, yeah, that's a horrendous card and exactly what we were afraid of by not raising the turn. Plus, you want to get it in on the turn. You're not necessarily betting just because you're afraid of the river. You know you're ahead on the turn.
Right. And I think his turn bet suddenly looks sort of strong. Like, even though my read on his min bet on the flop was that he might have been kind of weak, all of a sudden, when I check and he bets 3,500 into 5,700, it kind of looks, it looks like he might have something here at this point.
That's what I'm saying. Like, his 2-barrel looks strong. I think he's calling here if you're raising a lot of times and you want to get it in. Or it could be that he's seen a big dog video and he's like, where I'm like, I'm going to 2-barrel, but I'm going to do it really strong here and make it look really, really, really big. Right. So that's what he could be doing as well. But either way, I think the turn has to be raised.
Yep. And then on that river, I mean, there's just really nothing else to do but check, fold, right?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I mean, I would check, and then I breathe a huge sigh of relief when he checks. Like, I think you're ahead now. Like, I don't know what he has, but I'm probably going to say he has something like ace 10 of diamonds or something like that. But I wouldn't necessarily be snap folding on this river because there's hands he's 2-barreling that you beat, like ace 10 of diamonds. You know what I mean? He may decide that he can only win this pot by 3-barreling now. There are some draws that he missed that you're ahead of. So I wouldn't be snap folding. I'd see what he bet and go with my read, but I don't think it's a check fold.
And here's the thing that we can take a step back to the turn. Check raising that turn, KB, gives you more options on the river. So that spade hits, and you could probably, represent that I mean, if you figure it's your only way to take the pot down, I mean, you're so passive on the turn that you really got nothing to go to on the river. If you check raise the turn, now this guy's thinking like, wow, does he have a hand like king, queen of spades? And he's picked up that spade draw to go with his king, queen, unless he has the king, queen that we suspect he may have. But you know what I'm trying to say? By check raising that turn, it allows you to have more options to explore on the river. Just by calling there and showing how passive you are, what do you got on the river? You can't really make any kind of an overwhelming move. I don't know. Maybe Casey can give me.
I mean, obviously, from what KB said about check folding, this guy does have a queen. Like, he probably has king, queen, and has you beat. But I think. I mean, the mistake is obviously on the turn. There's no other way to analyze this hand. The mistake is on the turn.
All right, so on the river, I do go ahead and check, and he checks behind and shows me queen, 4 of hearts.
Yeah.
So, I think a check raise on the turn certainly would have won me the pot, and a pretty nice pot at that. I mean, it was, like close to a 10K pot at that point, so.
Right, and if he decides his queen's good and he gets it all in there with queen 4, you want that action, even if you get rivered.
Right.
So let's go on to the last hand. Guys, get ready because it's another one of mine.
Yes.
All right, so it's.
I can see what's going on here. You took out Pokersini, and you want to brag about it. The writing is on the wall. As soon as I see this come up, Pokersini's name is highlighted.
Yeah, because he shoves it with 5 big blinds into my king, so it's a really hard decision for me to take him out.
Oh my!
Brag, right? No, okay. So what's happening in this hand is it's 200-400 once again at the 28K, the $26 full tilt tournament. I am on the button with 22 big blinds and I have king, so obviously all good. We're happy about that. Pokercini makes it goes all in. He's short stacked under the gun, so he has 2K, which obviously is not that interesting. But we get a flat from under the gun +2 with for 2080, which is what Pokercini was all in for. So now it's folded to me on the button with the kings, and my question here is, I obviously want to get all the chips in here, hopefully pre-flop. I assume just shoving, hoping this guy has a hand that's good enough to flat here is good enough to call, or are you guys calling and my fear is that something will scare him on the flop. So is my line of thinking there good? And I have 22 big blinds, so I do shove to my whole stack in, and hope that he calls. So what do you guys think here? Is this a flat or is this an overshove?
For me, I like shove here just because you're showing that maybe that you're just trying to scoop the pot and get him out of there and get heads up action. So he might call you.
Yeah, that's my exact thinking.
That's just kind of the way I look at it. Like I said, looking at this and not understanding the dynamics of the table and how things have been going. But, I mean, what's he just calling with there? Speculate. What's he calling with and not going to call your shove with?
That's my thinking, exactly.
But
you agree, Casey?
Unfortunately.
Sorry to burst bubble.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree. Okay, so this is probably more of a no-brainer, but that's exactly what I was thinking. I was trying to make it look like I'm just trying to scoop up the pot. I don't want him to get scared on the flop and fold, or if a dreaded ace hits, that would suck too. So I do shove, and he actually folds speculate, which surprised me, but he did. And I don't recall exact what the results were. I do know I took it. I don't remember what Pokercini had, but I don't think it's that important. It's not the interesting part of this hand. So that was the last hand. And that is it for our strategy segment today on the podcast.
Excellent. Want to say big thanks to Tim and Casey for stopping in today. Much appreciated, especially at the crack of noon.
Yeah, good.
I know it's early for you guys.
You're welcome.
So we'll go ahead and take a break, and then we will be right back here on the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Ya.
Good luck.
Later.
Good luck in that pots.
Hey, this is Killingbird from TournamentPokerEdge.com, here to tell you about our exclusive rakeback program. Tournament Poker Edge offers up to 40% rakeback on sites such as Full Tilt Poker, Absolute Poker, Ultimate Bet, and Cake Poker. If you're playing online and not getting rakeback, you are just giving money away. So visit rakeback.tournamentpokeredge.com and sign up for the Tournament Poker Edge rakeback program and start getting paid to play today. Welcome back to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. Special thanks to TTWIST and Big Dog Pocket Fives for joining us for our strategy session today. Always good having our Canadian team on, so thanks to them.
Absolutely. And let me ask you, did you just throw face-to-face back there for the bumper music?
I did. As a special little treat for you, because I know how much you love that.
I love that song. Can listen to how great this song? I think this is like from the early 90s, I think, or mid 90s. I can't remember exactly when it was produced, but like, it's a perfect punk song, and it's so energetic. It's got great melody. Can you just play that, like, just to the chorus for everyone? I just want everyone to hear how great a song this is. I'm going to post this in the TPE music thread for anyone who likes this song. I'm just going to, could you just throw on up to the chorus?
All right. Yeah, let me fire it back up here really quick.
All right, cool.
So there you go, man. A little face-to-face just for you.
How do you not want to go out and just, like, chug a bunch of beers and just, like, go see some live music after hearing that? Like
no doubt, man. It brings back, like, so many good memories of when I was living in Los Angeles and just seeing, like, tons of those great kind of shows, like Face-to-Face and Social Distortion and Degeneration, all these, like, great, like, punk rock shows. And, man, I miss those days. I don't know if there's just aren't those kind of bands around anymore, or if I'm just too old to go out and enjoy them. But I certainly don't have those same kind of memories now.
No, it's probably a little bit of both anyway, right? Like, did you ever come and play, or did you ever go to the Continental in New York City? Do you remember that venue? Did you ever play there, or did you ever see a show there?
Never played there, but saw several shows there. In fact, a couple of my favorite shows were at the Continental. Degeneration, who I just mentioned, used to play there quite a bit, and a band from LA that almost nobody knows called Blackboard Jungle played a show out there when I was living in New York.
Wow, I do not.
And I got to see them.
I generally, like, I was really big into indie rock back then. And of course, punk was slightly different, but kind of anything that was relevant to punk was like kind of interesting to indie rock, right? So I kind of knew a lot of those bands, but I think I saw Degeneration there too, and I saw Face to Face there. But the best was seeing the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones.
Nice.
I didn't see him there. I saw him it's funny. I took my little brother. It was his first concert ever. I took him to the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. So awesome. Yeah, and it's funny because one of my buddies posted on YouTube, not on Facebook, Mighty Mighty Boss Tone, Someday I Suppose, the video, and I'm like watching it, and it's like it's these guys from Boston. They're all wearing these suits. It looks like The Town, the musical. They all look like they're from that same neighborhood. It's really awesome. Anyway,
That's great.
It's a poker podcast. I don't know.
Yeah.
We could do our old man music podcast.
Right. We'll make that like a special add-on that people can get if they want to hear us talk about music that none of them have heard of.
Right. All right. Well, if you like that song, go check the music thread because I'll post the video there. So, cool. Anyway,
Right on.
all right. So back to poker. What did we learn today? We learned that you're not perfect, first of all.
Yes, so shockingly so, and we learned that we both still have some holes to fill and some leaks to take care of. So.
Yeah. Those guys love to beat us up, but everyone has leaks. It's fine. It's part of the game. That hand was an example of exactly what I was talking about earlier on about, just kind of thinking through hands. And if I had stopped to really think through what this guy has, as opposed to just kind of being on autopilot and saying, I have top pair, I want to get to showdown, and I have a good enough hand that I could actually shove over him if he raises. If I had thought about what he likely has and what he'd likely call and the best way to get value, I probably would have figured out exactly what they said, but I didn't.
Right.
So that's an example of what I was talking about with the studying and where I just need to get better. I'd rather play less tables and really think through every hand right now, just so that I become a better player. But I think from what we learned there, when playing in the early stages of the ante period, we learned that we kind of want to, we don't want to put a good part of our stack in and then end up folding. First of all, I think that's one thing we learned when we're in that, like, if we didn't make it there with a big stack, we don't want to play 30 big blinds and down to 10 big blinds without getting any equity at the end of the hand in our hand. I think that's one thing we learned. I think a lot of people know how to play this level that have been playing for a while, but to the point I made earlier, there's very little form activity on this level. So I'm not sure if people just think they're great at it or they don't really notice the leaks, but just people aren't asking a lot of questions about it, which is kind of surprising to me because it's an important phase.
Yeah, I think a lot of times this stage of the tournament a lot of times becomes a little bit of just a push fold stage.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of like, I have like 25 bigs. If somebody raises, I'll just jam, or I have 18, and if I have a hand, I'll just jam. But I think there's a lot more poker to be played than that, especially if you've built up any kind of a stack going into this phase.
Right.
And it was, one thing that I always find interesting with talking to Casey is that he is just sort of always putting chips in the pot. Like he's just always building a pot and getting more chips with hands where he is very likely ahead. And I think a lot of times you and I both, and probably a lot of people, tend to try to get tricky, like, I'll check the turn and see if I can get him to fire on the river, or whereas Casey's just like, bet, always be putting chips in,
Yeah, he's like, I think I have the best hand now, so I think I'm going to bet. Like, if he thinks he has the best hand, he's going to build a pot, even though there are cards that can come to beat him. He still wants to build a pot. He's always building pots. You're right. He's always building pots. And then when he's right, that's how you get those giant stacks, I think, that he always ends up with. And that's how you can be in the top 10, during getting to the money, as opposed to, getting to the money just under the average or something,
Right. Yeah, I think you just have to spend a little less time trying to figure out how to get all the chips in or how to trap somebody, and just getting that extra 1,200 or 1,500 chips at this stage is huge. It gives you more ammunition to work with on the next hand.
Well, especially since if you do something on the turn, then you compound how much you can get on the river.
Right.
And I think, those guys made a interesting point on how with the ace-8 hand, that guy would have folded on the turn probably, and I would have won that whole pop to myself.
Yeah. I think you're right.
How much aggression is important. But I just think equally important is understanding, the fact that you're going to, the blinds are raising. You can't sit on a 30 big blind stack forever. You have to be willing to make some moves and get stuff started, even at that level. And I think Casey misunderstood me at first. I didn't say I think you should be constantly aggressive. I mean, especially with the bigger stack. I don't think you should be, pushing every hand. But I do think, and I think they agreed that, you don't want to sit idly by at the 250 level when all of a sudden it's the 600 level or the 800 level, and now you've got 16 big blinds.
Right.
And I know I found that I've been a little bit guilty of that. That's another thing about massively multi-tabling is that you're like, okay, well, I got 30 big blinds in this one, and I got 30 big blinds in this one, I got 30 big blinds in this one, so you feel like okay in those because you have 9 tables going, but then 20 minutes later, all those 30 big blind stacks are now 15.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's an easy trap to fall into. I also found it kind of cool to hear Twist sort of talk about the ranges and what he's doing with different hands, and I think it kind of relates back to the concept of studying and looking back at hands and saying, okay, if I'm doing this with queens, but if I had jacks, what would I have done differently? I'm doing this with ace queen, but what if I had ace jack?
Right.
And, I think you have to think about those things on the fly, but I also think when you look back at hands, you don't just have to think, oh, well, I have ace queen here, so here's what I have to do, but you should ask yourself questions like, okay, well, what if I had this or what if I had that?
Right. Yep.
And it's a really good way to kind of go over your hands and put yourself into different scenarios, and it helps you figure out those cutoff points,
Yep. Yeah, well, that's because you're not going to be in the same position.
Right.
With the same hand next time around, but if you had thought through what you would do with, queen jack as opposed to ace jack, then you will be more prepared for it next time around.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right on. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening on Tournament Poker Edge.
Cool. Well, we just released. We're in the middle of some new videos, obviously, as we always are. We have Ween. I mentioned. I went over a hand history with Ween. I got him to do a hand history review for me, and we decided to record it for the site. Actually record he and I doing the hand history review so that you guys can get sort of a sneak peek into how a pro does a hand history review. And then I can ask him questions. I asked a lot of questions that even if I kind of knew the answer, I thought might be useful to the member population. Things I might be wondering about. And there was a lot of stuff I didn't know the answer to, so that was helpful for me. So we got that going on. We just finished a bankroll builder series with Cougars. He was able to play some step satellites, and we call them bankroll builders because you don't have to play steps just to make it to another tournament. You can play steps or to the big NEPT or World Series or whatever. You could play steps up to 216 tournaments, and then you get the tournament money in your account. So we call those bankroll builders, and so that's pretty neat. We had a couple of videos just go off on multi-entry week. Hagbard had a series. Twist had a series. We actually have a series from Big Dog during multi-entry week. But before that, we're going to actually get this. I don't even know if I told you this. Big Dog recorded a bankroll builder series on the 45s, the 45 mans, and we're going to put that up first because he did it by request in the chat room. A lot of people were asking him about it.
Nice.
So he did it right on the spot, and that's going to be his next video that goes up, and that's going to be in the next couple of days. So that should be interesting. And I know he used to crush sit and goes on AP. So before he moved to crushing multi-table tournaments. So it's a little different. The 45 is a little different than the 9-man sit and goes, but I know he played those as well. So
yeah, that'll be really interesting to watch those videos for sure.
Yep. And so that's for the most part what's going on.
Cool. Yeah, we also just put up a new article. A guy by the name of Jamie Glazier was nice enough to give us an article, and he's a mental game coach. He works with Joe Hatcham and a bunch of other big pros, and he wrote a really interesting article just about your mindset and directly related to poker and to MTT play. So make sure and stop by the site and check that out. You can also check out his website, and he was nice enough to offer up a discount to TPE members. So if you're a member and you want to go over and check that out, the website is listed there with the article. So
that's funny. I didn't know he was Joe Hasham's coach. I've actually noticed a difference in Joe Hasham, like on broadcast. I mean, I know it's not the be all end all, and I don't know if he's a jerk in other places, but I recall he used to be kind of a whiny guy, and it seems like in his last couple of televised podcast shows, he's had a much better attitude. Maybe it's working from this guy. I don't know.
Yeah, might be related. I know I was doing some reading on the guy's site, and and some of the guys that he's working with were just like crushing at the Aussie Millions and other tournaments like that. So, I think there's something to it, and having a good positive mental outlook is important for
Absolutely.
any job, and especially one where you tend to go through so many, bad streaks as you do in poker. So,
Yep.
It's worth reading, and I think we'll have some more articles from Jamie in the future. So keep an eye out for those.
Cool. All right. Well, another podcast in the books. Thank you, buddy.
Yep, thanks to you, and hopefully you can turn your downswing around. I know you will. It's just a matter of when. So Enjoy your week of study.
Thank you, sir.
And we'll see you back crushing at the tables real soon.
All right. See you later, everyone.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. Bye.
See ya.
In Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Lock in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no, she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no, she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. I wanna roll with her, a hard pair we will be. While little gambling is fun when you're with me. I love it. Russian roulette is not the same without a gun. And baby, when it's love it, it's not rough, it isn't fun. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'll get her heart, show her what I got. Can't read mine, no, she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no, she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Poker face, poker face. Poker face, poker face. Can't read mine, no, she can't read a mile. Poker face, she's got to love nobody. Can't read mine, no, she can't read a mile.